Wednesday evening means it's time for another Auburn Family Night. This is the show here on E2C Network that is about you, your comments, your questions, and your calls. Let's get into anything and everything Auburn right now. War Eagle Auburn family, War Eagle E2C Network family, thank you so much for joining us. Whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay, we appreciate you being here, hanging out with us, spending some time, being a part of our little family within the Auburn family. As is always the case, we encourage you to do a couple things for us as we start each and every live stream. We'd love for you, especially if you're on the live stream format of this. If you're watching the replay, you can participate too. We'd love for you to check in with us. Post where you're watching from, your city, your state, international, whatever your location condition is. Let us know where you are right now with the War Eagle, hopefully. If anybody else is here from another fandom, I guess you can do your thing, behave, whatever. But let us know who is here. And we'd also love for you to smash the like button here on YouTube. If you're on Facebook or some other social media platform watching this, do the according thing, the share button, all that stuff. Let us build the biggest little family within the Auburn family, and you can help us by doing those few things right there. What's on tap for you tonight? It is the Auburn Family Night Show every Wednesday night. Since the dawn of time, we've been doing this at 8 o'clock, where it is an informal get-together, a live stream where we just talk about what's on your mind. I can sit here and talk all night, or we can talk about the things that you are interested about. So your comments, your questions, and your calls. We will open up the phone lines here in just a little bit, where you can call in and be on camera or off camera if you are interested in doing that. We hope you are, because we love hearing other people's voices and other people's smiling faces, hopefully smiling faces. I don't think we've had a frowny face yet. Maybe we'll have one tonight. So all of that is on the table tonight. Some things that we are probably going to want to discuss in great detail. Auburn versus LSU. We are going to have another live stream for that tomorrow evening, a preview and prediction show, but that doesn't mean we can't get the thing warmed up tonight, ready to roll. So Auburn versus LSU, volleyball and soccer are having some great little runs right now that we could discuss. Obviously, the state of college football, everything that's going on within that. If you're an Atlanta Braves fan and you want to, I know it's not Auburn related, but if you want to lament about what's going on there, we really could hit anything, even as far-fetched connecting it to Auburn that it might be tonight. So you get the gist. We'll talk about some of the things. Oh, and basketball is kind of starting to have some news circulate about it as well. So with all that in mind, we're going to jump right into here things. I see a few people popping in. Lisa checking in from Georgia. John checking in. Good to see you so much for can't talk. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and being here. You guys do similar things as they are, letting us know that you are here. So with that being said, the show begins. You pick what we talk about. In the meantime, I'm going to discuss something that's on my mind. Tomorrow, and I know we're going to talk about football mainly, but I want to give a little bit of attention to basketball too. Tomorrow is pro day for the Auburn basketball program. You know, obviously, just by sheer numbers alone, the football pro days get much more attention than this. But this is an opportunity for current and former players to come to Auburn and be seen by NBA scouts and I guess other professional entities too, to be able to showcase their skills, their talents. I have not looked in. I'm sure there's a list out there of who's going to attend outside of the current players, but really this is the first opportunity, well, second for some of them, to really get a couple of eyes from NBA scouts on them to see where they could potentially position themselves, which would be really interesting for players like Janai Broom, who almost went pro. Thankfully he didn't this go round, but obviously they're wanting to get a really good look at Janai, especially in a few other players, maybe to see if they have potential to play in the NBA after how they perform this season. Brian checking in from Minnesota on Facebook. Always throws me off when I see Brian like on the two different things. I'm like, he's over here tonight, he's over there, he's everywhere, but he's always from Minnesota. At least that's his home base. Good to see Brian. So yes, basketball is obviously something that I love and love to talk about. So we can dive more into that. But I did want to mention at the top of the show. Good to see you, Stan. The pro day happening tomorrow. I don't know that we'll get a ton of information out of it. Usually we do have beat writers and media members there to cover that and ask questions. There is a press, well, I don't call it a press conference. Maybe it is a press conference, a opportunity for media to speak with Coach Pearl. I think it was Janai. Yes, Janai that was going to speak with the press too before. So obviously we might have a little bit of, if you're a basketball fan, something to wet your whistle, that appetite for that sport, which is still a month and change away. It's not a long time away from that sport getting started, but it's not going to be here just around the corner just quite yet. We got to get through this month as well. Football, folks. By the way, who is excited about that Ole Miss Auburn matchup and the time slot we got for it? Ladies and gentlemen. Whew. Oh, Brian clarified it is less than a month. Thank you. I had it in my head. It was like 11, 13 or 14, which is why I said it didn't change, but I was wrong. Here I am is wrong. That's the Baylor game, which you would know because it's up in your direction. So I know you've got that in your mind right now. So that's good. That's good. Back to football. Ole Miss game. My goodness. I was hoping, I was wishing on a star that we would get a night game for this. And it looks like the weather, depending on what you wanted for that game, is going to get even better. Stan says it's going to be a great night to be in Auburn. I agree. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know. Most of you who watch this show, who follow our content, know that I am usually on campus for every home game, 99% of the time. And I am hoping to be able to complete a full weekend in Auburn that week because there is so much going on. Equestrian, volleyball, soccer, forgetting something. Help, Kyle. Come on. Get it together. Softball. There is a lot that's going to be going down. It is going to be a fun, full weekend. Obviously, with that, nice centerpiece of the Ole Miss matchup at night in Jordan-Hare under the lights. The weather originally, when I checked it, when it first, if you like the Weather Channel app goes out 2 weeks, it said the high was going to be like 65. A low of 47, I think is what it was. It has now risen up to 71-ish, or I think maybe a little bit higher than that, and a low of like in the mid 50s. That is beautiful. I kind of was hoping for that little bit of a chilly game, though. It would have felt like that first real stint of fall where it's just on the cold side of fall for a football game would have been absolutely outstanding. I'm not going to complain about mid 70s and low and mid 50s for a low. That is still great football weather, but it is going to be it's going to be a good day, a good weekend, a good night, and hopefully a good result as well. Patience pays off here. Kevin's asking, how about the phone lines? I did mention we were going to open them up, and it's kind of always open, but we asked for you guys to give us a second. It is now officially open, Kevin. Call. I guess we're going to hear from Kevin tonight. But you can call now, and that's brought to you by our friends at allthingsauburn.net. If you're looking for a place to stay at Auburn, make sure you hit them up because they are a great place to stay, but also to have a great Auburn experience. Yeah, let's discuss this one, Corey. Hate to see a decommit. Oh, is it today? Is there another one? Did I miss another one? Hold on. Are we all talking about Jalewis Solomon? Ooh. Let's see here. I see emoji eyes too happening. Looking on here and I'm not seeing anything. Give me some fill in. I think most of you know this. I usually kind of check out a few hours before the show because I've got things to do here. But the last I heard, we were talking about Jalewis Solomon. Are we talking about someone else now? which is really just going to put a damper on this night even further. I'm a Braves fan, and they are, well, at least last time I checked, they were stinking it up tonight. So if you're talking about somebody else specifically, let me know. I did see some maybe emoji eyes and things like that on Twitter when I've just checked in over there, but I'm not really seeing any context with that. So let me know what's okay. That's the only one. Yeah, look, what I have read about this situation, what I have interpreted myself reading the tea leaves and stuff like this, when this guy committed, it seemed like it was a bit of a shock and what that he reacted that he chose Auburn. In fact, if you remember how visceral, and there's been some South Carolina fans coming back and finding the video I did about that of late, which is it's kind of sad when you think about it. But they viscerally react to the fact that we stole them, stole him basically from them. And so now he's decommitted, and I don't know if he's committed to South Carolina or someone else. But from what I understand in this world of NIL, there's speculation that plays a role into it, that he's not being either given what he was promised or got a better offer, or another going storyline is that he was he thought that he would be playing a different position at Auburn than they want him to play, because he's considered an athlete, which is always interesting to me because, you know, you watch these recruiting sites, you follow them, and they'll list them mainly the same thing, but sometimes you'll see athletes, somebody will be listed as an athlete on one website, then it'll be cornerback on the other, and then it'll be wide receiver on the other. Some will just leave it straight up athlete. Or, you know, there's sometimes a little bit of variance there. You know, who makes those decisions to call them what they are, right? Do they make the decision off what they're likely going to play or what they want to play? To me, if you're considered an athlete as a commit, that kind of speaks for itself to say, we're going to utilize you wherever we can. I don't know. John says word is that Auburn hasn't given up on him. I don't think that you give up on anybody necessarily, especially in the recruiting world. If you do, then you're just basically like folding and wasting all your efforts there. Now, do you need to be wise with how you utilize time and efforts given on somebody who has decommitted from you? Yeah, but obviously you want to see if there's any hope there for the future. He committed once. Obviously, he liked it enough to commit once. Why wouldn't he do it again? Look, the reality is when you see someone decommit, very few. Okay, I think we're good now. How about that? How about that? Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. All good? I think we should be good now. I'm unmuted, I think. Mic check. I'm getting resonance back now. Okay, I think we're good now. Apologies for that. It is. I don't know what happened there. I didn't knock anything, and yeah, that was weird. Sorry about that, folks. Sometimes things just happen, and there's no explanation for it. That's why you saw me plugging things back in and out and in and out, because it's like I didn't knock anything. Who knows? All right, we were talking about Jalewis Solomon, and yeah, look, don't give up on him, but don't waste your time on him. I just don't see a lot of hope in someone who decommits, at least in this far out in advance too. To me, I think you can utilize your time other places as well. So that's just my perspectives on that. Corey says I can hear him too. I wanted that'd be interesting. That was interesting if you could hear me, but others couldn't. That one really doesn't make sense. Anyway, so thank you for bringing that up about Jalewis Solomon. I had meant to make like a short about that, but we've been quite busy over here, as I know I've been saying a lot lately, but for good reason. And yeah, so wanted to at least talk about that a little bit. How are we feeling about the LSU game? We're going to talk about that a lot tomorrow night at 8 p.m. in greater detail. But how's everybody feeling? To me, feeling the temperature of the room, and when I say the room, I mean like social media, I mean other venues out there, talking to people in general about what their perspective on the team is right now. It literally like waffles one way or the other. I find people that are highly optimistic about the game. I find people that are very pessimistic, not so much down the middle, which is really interesting to me, which speaks to the instability of both of these teams. What do we know? LSU can score a lot. Stan says we can't score enough to win. We haven't shown that we can score enough. That's where I'll disagree with you, Stan. We haven't shown that we can score enough to outpace LSU, but it doesn't mean we can't. Sometimes amazing things happen in the bye week. Sometimes they don't. So it's probably going to be somewhere in between. Let's see. Kevin, let me make sure. Kevin's saying that the call link is not up there. Let me we got a lot of things kind of falling by the wayside tonight, which is really, really interesting. So apologies for that. Let me go over to here real quick and see if we are. Did we put it in the wrong place? We did put it in the wrong place. So that is on me, folks. We're going to change something real quick. You work so hard to have all these things in order and lined up, and then it doesn't. And then here's the interesting thing too. They've changed around the YouTube backs have that comment below what I just posted there. I had to do that to be able to access, to be able to pin that for you guys. Anyway, that was weird. All right. Hopefully that's the last of the technical difficulties that we will be having tonight. So you can call the show by clicking that link down below now. I promise you should be. I say I promise. So there you go, Kevin. You were asking about it, but there you go. Stan would take 40 points plus to win. I really will disagree with you on that, Stan. It would not take 40 plus to win. I mean, if you score 40 plus, then I would hope that you would win. I would hope our defense could hold them below 40 points. I do think that Auburn's going to have to get as close to 30 points as possible. I don't know that they have shown that they can do that, but 40 points, that's too much hyperbole for me. I think sometimes we over exaggerate how good someone is just based because we're seeing how they perform against someone else and apply it to us without actually playing the game. But I understand why. Anthony checking in from California. What are you doing out there in California? Is that where you reside normally? We got Minnesota, California, Georgia, Alabama checking in tonight. So we got all kinds of people. All right, our first caller is in. So let's go ahead and say, hello to him. You know him, you love him. Kevin, what's going on, sir?
War Eagle, Cal.
How are you doing, buddy? Actually, I just realized something too, that you guys will hear him through that. So give me 1 second, Kevin. All right, we're back now. The audio is going to come through the wrong place, but we're good now. So what's up? What's on your mind?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, but apparently my computer and everything tonight decided to say, hey, we're just going to completely mess up. But I think we're good now. So other than that, I'm doing well.
You know, Demario Austin was at practice today, practicing.
I had heard that he would potentially be back. I wasn't aware that he was back today. That's a good sign. But Hugh Freeze did say at the beginning of the week that he was doubtful, which is not a good sign for this. And, so I wouldn't anticipate him being back. I hope maybe he will be. Maybe we'll be surprised, but I doubt it.
I think our wide receivers need to catch the football.
Amen, brother. Amen. That's never been more simply said than that. So we saw in the last game, you remember, a lot of people have been critical of Peyton Thorne, but even the coaches and, analysts to their credit and media members have pointed out that a lot of those missed completions were in the hands of wide receivers. And were some of them easy catches? No. But what's the rule of thumb? If we hit you in the hands, it's your responsibility. That's what I was taught. So I agree. Got to catch the ball. What else is on your mind?
Our volleyball team?
Wasn't that a huge win? Can we also shout out soccer too, getting a top 10 win? I mean, they both kind of hit little, I won't call them slumps, but little lower points in the season earlier, and now kind of risen back up. So it just goes to show you never count somebody out. So it's been a good fall overall thus far. I mean, I know there's been some, football has not done exactly what we all hope we'd do. I hope everybody had context and was like, being reasonable about this. But, look, there's a lot to be happy about.
I hope our defense get to the LSU quarterback.
That's the key, isn't it? The defense for Auburn, keeping it as low as possible to help that offense catches up. How many points do you think they're going to score? How many points do you think that LSU is going to be able to score on us?
Only 21.
21 for that prolific offense. You have high expectations, sir. I like it. I like having high.
I think we win 35-21.
35-21, dropping us a little prediction early. Love it. Well, make sure you still come back tomorrow night and watch the show so we can get it locked in officially. Maybe you'll change it after that point, but 35-21, you heard it here first from Mr. Kevin. What else is on your mind tonight?
That Kendrick Fault is
Keldrick? What's that?
Kendrick Fault.
His name's Keldrick Falk, yes, and he's starting at defensive end now, mainly because of injuries, but he was already getting a lot more playing time. And a lot of people are kind of getting really excited about him. I said this to someone recently and I'm not trying to put expectations on someone before they're ready for him, but I compared him a little bit to a Derek Hall. You know how Derek Hall was such a great player, but he was also a great Auburn guy, invested in, being here and being part of everything. And I kind of get that vibe, not just from Keldrick, from his family. His brother Caleb committed in 2025. So it seems like a good crew to have here associated with us.
Yeah. Great. They will be a great team next year because Bryce Kane and Perry Thompson be there.
I know. It's a good crop of wide receivers coming in. Hopefully, that will continue to build, and hopefully some of these wide receivers that we have here right now, we can find ways to step up so that we're not having to rely on them as quickly. I mean, I'd love to see them play early, but I'd also like the wide receiver play to get better now.
I hope Jalen Simpson will intercept some passes.
Well, you would be in a good position to see that come to fruition, given how well Jalen Simpson is doing. So how about this? Let me get a final prediction from you. How many more interceptions do you think Jalen Simpson will get before the end of the season? So we got 7 games left. How many more interceptions does he get?
He will get 8.
8? So you're predicting pretty much one every single game plus 1.
Yeah.
Listen, he is definitely on a route to do that if he continues it. But we know you are very optimistic about that, and I love that about you. So, Kevin, it's always good to hear from you. Y'all stay safe. I see you're driving in the rain right now, so y'all be careful.
I think Robbie Asper will play some too.
Oh, he definitely will. Don't leave him on the sideline, right? All right. Well, good to see you, War Eagle buddy. And we'll talk to you
Bye.
later. Bye. Always great to hear from Kevin. Let me hit a couple of your comments, and we've got another phone person on the line we'll say hello to in just a second. Let's see here. The Florida match was fantastic, talking about volleyball, and they still aren't even at full strength. Great to bring that up. Grant Loy's Burner. I recognize this from social media. What's up, Kyle? Glad we're seeing some surprises and promise during this year. Think we will have a good record down the stretch of the last 7. That'd be a good question for everybody in the room. What is a good record for the rest of for this 7-game stretch? Is it losing only 2 more? Is it losing only 1 more? What's everybody's opinion on that? So share with us if you have an opinion about that. So let's jump right in to our next caller and say hello to him from the great White North. There he is. Mr. Brian, what's going on?
I'm checking my schedule to see what I think a good record would be for the last 7.
I know. I can give you the games coming up. We got LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and I think I've got a little bit out of order there. Arkansas,
right.
New Mexico State, Alabama. So that should be 7, right?
I think we win 4 for sure, probably maybe 5.
So that's you're probably saying Vanderbilt, New Mexico State, Mississippi State.
Yeah.
So where's that 4th one?
Arky.
I'm a little worried about Arkansas because it's in Fayetteville. That's the only reason.
I have no reason for this, but I have a lot of optimism about Saturday night.
Oh, I think Saturday night's going to go a lot better than people expect it to.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying I think we're going to win, but I think people are going to be surprised how well our defense will still show up, but also maybe how our offense maybe took another step in the right direction.
Right. I won't be shocked if we win.
Right. How about that?
Building off of what we did against Georgia. I mean, it's still Saturday night. It's Death Valley. It's LSU. I mean, they're good, but they're not as good as people thought they'd be.
Right.
And we're building. I mean, we're not there yet, but we're building. So I have a weird feeling about. So between Arkansas and LSU, we win one of those. The other 3.
Isn't it important too to get the last win of the annual meetups with LSU as well? I mean, there's a lot riding on that for both teams.
Because do we know if we play them next year?
We do not play them next year.
We don't play them next year. Okay.
Unless I am incorrect in that. At last time I checked.
No, I don't have that schedule memorized. So,
I thought I had it memorized, but every time I say things like that, I always second guess myself. So I'm pulling it up very quickly right now. No LSU on the schedule whatsoever. We do play Missouri, the Tigers, but no LSU.
Where do we play Missouri at?
I think Missouri is at home. I think we get Vanderbilt and Missouri, Oklahoma, and I took it down before I looked, but I think that's the home.
Mizzou is the one SEC game I could drive to, I guess.
I know that's probably. What about Oklahoma though? How far is that for you?
Oh, that's a long way.
Okay. I figured.
I mean, I've driven to Auburn before, so I mean you can drive anywhere, but legitimately, like, not overnight, I could drive to Mizzou.
So you were probably actually somewhat pleased to see Missouri join simply for the fact that it gave Auburn
the SEC. They're not the SEC. No. It's like, I mean, I'm in Big Ten country, right? You're telling me that UCLA and USC are Big Ten?
I know.
No, they're not.
But at least it's contiguous. And, you could say, like, we're all connected here. Now, it's hard to connect California to Indiana, but,
How about to Rutgers? I mean, the Big Ten, not to make this Big Ten family night, but they've done a good job of getting, with Rutgers, they've got the New York TV market. Maryland, they've got more DC. Obviously, Northwestern gets some Chicago. I don't know how important Minneapolis is, but they got Minneapolis, and now they've got the LA TV markets, and they're going to get the West Coast with Seattle, with Oregon and Washington. I mean, they've nailed down some big TV markets, which is important. So
and what's interesting about that too, and this is a conversation I think we had several weeks ago, but I'll bring it back up. When the UCLA, Cal, well, not Cal, but UCLA, USC stuff started cropping up. I think a few others made the point. I think I saw it somewhere else that it might be a good idea for Auburn to go snatch up Arizona and Arizona State. It's not, if we're all saying geography, out the window.
Doesn't matter, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Why would you not go grab those two? They're decent programs. They're not pushovers, and grab that Western market.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, there's a lot of, Phoenix is a big city. So.
Exactly. And that's, gets you close to the LA market somewhat. I know there's not a ton of fervor for SEC out there, but you never know until you go in there. I mean, look, I'm happy that we have stayed, as I just said, contiguous. We're pushing the bounds of that as can be the SEC. I would love it if we would make a super conference and do a traditional Southwest and Southeast style.
That's what I like. That's what I would love to have happen. But I will say, again, my geography. So Minnesota played Michigan on Saturday night, and I didn't see it, but apparently it was pretty ugly, 52-10. But that was a rivalry that was played every single year for the Little Brown Jug, and now it's played every 6 years or something, just because there's more teams. So I hate the idea that like LSU becomes that, right?
But if it gives you the opportunity to see Florida, Tennessee more, is that good?
There's a trade-off.
Yeah.
To me,
yeah.
I know we'll never lose the Iron Bowl. At least I can't imagine we'd lose the Iron Bowl.
No.
As much as I hate them with every fiber of my being, losing Georgia would suck.
It would.
Yeah.
And I think that's the rub for the SEC scheduling is you've got so many of these I'm gonna call them secondary, but they're still important secondary rivalries. So like Auburn, Georgia, whichever it is for Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, whatever, have you. LSU, you could make a case for Florida, and Alabama, Tennessee. You could there's several of those things, and that's the rub. How do you make the scheduling better for everybody without taking away some of those great games?
Yeah. It's going to be, one, you need to go to 9 games.
Yes, that helps. It helps. It does. But if we add more teams,
the math still doesn't work, obviously.
Math was never my strong suit, and apparently it's not for the SEC's office either.
Aren't you a zoology major? Didn't you? You said that?
It's funny you say that. Okay, quick personal story from Auburn. So when I arrived at Auburn, I did 2 years at AUM, Auburn Montgomery. I got a full ride there, did prereqs, all that kind of stuff. And I was like determined, no, after 2 years, I'm going to Auburn. So I went to Auburn. I was going to be a marine biology major. Loved the ocean, all the animals of the sea and stuff like that.
But Auburn's landlocked. Okay.
It was interesting, right? But they had a great marine biology program because they work with Dolphin Island down in Mobile. Okay. There's a sea lab down there. And I was like part of that program. You got to spend 2 summers down there working, but doing research and just being at the ocean. I was like, oh man, that's the life for me. Well, I get to Auburn and I look at my course, of course, I'm sure I looked at it beforehand, but the reality sets in of what you've got to do to complete your coursework for this marine biology degree. And lo and behold, there is like two kinds of statistics. There is, I can't remember exactly all of them, but there was a special kind of algebra, calculus, not algebra, calculus. There was organic chemistry 2 and its lab, which was notorious at Auburn at that time for just being one of the hardest courses ever. And then a couple other things. So I did my first year there, and my counselor sat me down at the first year and said, "You sure you want to do this? Like you're not, this isn't happening." And she asked me, "What do you want to do?" I wanted to work with animals. And so, well, zoology would be more up your alley. And she showed me the coursework compared to that, and it eliminated 75% of the math. It was all, learning more, I want to say concrete stuff, but less of the math stuff out there. So to me, that was the way to go.
Yeah, my pastor's a zoology major, which I find hilarious.
But I mean, I'm a podcaster now, so.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So, no, I just want to call and say it is less than a month to Auburn basketball season.
Yes.
I'm very excited to be going to that game in Sioux Falls. I'm looking forward to Baylor in Sioux Falls. That's my next big Auburn adventure.
And then, a fun one.
It should be, right?
Yeah.
It should
No
be
reason
great.
no reason to think that they won't be a good team this year, right?
I think they'll be good. I think Baylor will be good. I think it'll be a good matchup. I mean, again, it's probably game one for both of them, so who knows? But it should be fun. I mean,
I'm excited for you because that's like, yeah, I mean, is it cool to go to a big city, to a big first game matchup and stuff like that? But you're going to like a really, for most people, I know you're more familiar with all of that than we are, at least being in the same vicinity. But that's just a cool, unique matchup for a big time matchup like that to start off the season.
Yeah.
So I really like that, frankly.
I do too. I love it. I mean, I'm still kicking myself that I didn't go to the Battle for Atlantis a couple years ago. Like that would have been.
Yeah. I am still kicking myself, but only kicking myself because I simply can't afford it to go to the Maui Invitational in Maui. And
yeah, that would have been even better. But yeah, I've been to Atlantis before, and that bring your wallet. But it's fun. It's a good spot, and it would have been a great tournament to go to. But no, so I'm excited to do this.
you got a message from John that says nice background.
Yeah, you gotta like that War Eagle, man. Yeah, the only thing I would just say is that I lost my train of thought there. I got excited about my background. Yeah, and I said it already. I think Saturday night we're all going to be a little bit happier than we're expecting to be.
And I think you can be happier too, even in a lot, not happy, but more satisfied. Like, to me, what I'm looking for is like what you pointed out, what we saw begin to work last week being built upon, like layers and foundation, so that we're taking this next step. And if that foundation's like a really big step forward, you can put yourself, even in Baton Rouge, in a position to win the game.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a blast going to the Cal game just because it's fun to travel and be with all the Auburn people, whatever. But we did not play well that night. We got to win, but it was, you can make all the, I mean, there's more than one reason, right? New program, coach, struggling team, travel, time zones, whatever. But we did not play well.
No.
I expect us to play so much better than that Saturday night. And I think in the fourth quarter, we're going to have a chance to win, and we'll see what happens. But I'll be shocked if with 10 minutes left in that football game, we don't have a chance to win. And I think that's a lot about where we're heading. Controlling
that clock, trying to keep that very rowdy crowd as much at bay as you can is going to work in Auburn's favor. If they can do that, you can't start the way you did at Texas A&M.
I mean, you know I was not a Brian Harsin fan.
Right.
But ending that streak at Baton Rouge,
you got to give it to him.
That's in that column. That's in the W column for him, and that's huge. And there's no reason why we don't run our streak to 2-0.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so, because the last one in the annual matchup should definitely go to the real Tigers, not the Bengals. You know, we are. If I'm going to get technical, bust out my zoology degree. Our tiger is based off of a Siberian or a Mur tiger, and theirs is off a Bengal tiger, which those are the smaller of the version. So we are the superior tiger.
War Eagle. That's all War Eagle.
Just bringing out zoology.
You put that Auburn education to good use, man.
That's right. On a podcast. So got to figure out how to use it somehow.
All right, War Eagle, let's do it.
All right, War Eagle, man. Good to see you. All right, great to hear from Kevin, from Brian. Thank you guys for calling in. Please do, if you are interested in doing so. Some of you fine people I see in the chat. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. Come on in. Come and talk to me. But you can obviously hang out in the chat too. We just love seeing smiling faces and such. A lot of comments during that. I'll try to hit some of them, but we want to stay kind of abreast of all the new ones coming in. So keep dropping them in. We'll kind of bounce around until we either get another caller or we hit on some bigger topic. Corey said, what will be great is if it comes down to Auburn or Bama to win the West again for the last year of division play. And I think some of you are discussing this right now, whether or not it's already kind of heavily in somebody's corner, meaning Bama. I haven't looked at how the math works out, but just kind of doing it in my head right now. So Auburn's lost 2 SEC games, one to a non-divisional team and one to a divisional team. So right now your focus has to be, if that's how you're thinking, I think we've got bigger problems and bigger issues to worry about than winning the division. Your thinking has to shift to, how do we get ourselves ahead of Texas A&M? Because if that doesn't happen, then we've got to, they're going to be ahead of us in the tiebreaker. They've got to get at least 2 losses. Yeah, at least 2 losses. I think technically they would need a third. So they've lost to Bama. in the SEC category, and they would need another one coming up soon. So maybe an LSU can do it. Maybe an Arkansas can surprise. I don't think it's going to happen. But then you've got Alabama too. So somebody's got to beat Alabama at least once in the SEC before we got to them. So it is very much in Alabama's court right now, as it always seems to be. But obviously anything's on the table still. Just go out and play each Saturday, and you can only control what you can control at this point. Would make for a better Iron Bowl too. But I think it'll be just fine without it because it only takes a second. Let's see here. Corey was asking, is Simpson cleared to play Saturday? He was a little bit dinged up after the Georgia game. Someone said earlier he was practicing, but haven't heard that he has been cleared. So, yeah, look, I think if I remember correctly from the press conference on Monday, because there wasn't much of this addressed today in the SEC teleconference. By the way, if you're not aware, we put some notes up for you guys on Mondays and Wednesdays for both of those, and they're usually around midday. So the Auburn press conference on Mondays runs at noon Eastern time, and the SEC teleconference for Auburn's part of it goes at about 1 to 1:15 ish. Well, really, it's actually 1:10 to 1:15, 1:20 Eastern time. So, but we put notes out on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, if you want notes from that. Let's see here. Bills Mafia is here. Good to see you. Texas A&M has Tennessee in Tennessee Saturday. So, yeah, that's going to be one that is definitely in the plus column if you're playing the numbers game for Auburn right now. But, I mean, that's really what it amounts to. When you lose to somebody like that is in a better position than you to win the division, you've got to make sure that they get their losses first before you even start thinking about that. So that's why I say, look, Auburn, go out and take care of yourself. Let the chips fall where they may. Because here's the thing. If Auburn wins out, not going to happen probably. But if they are going to win out, they will put themselves in position to win the Iron Bowl. It only takes Alabama. If Texas A&M gets a couple more losses, be it with one loss, and then Auburn holds the tiebreaker over them. It would be cool. We just did not position ourselves well with choices in previous years with when to make certain decisions to compete for that final division championship. Big Simp said a little bit earlier, the rest of the games are winnable. Our quarterback play is lacking big time. Defense is our offense. Isn't a bad thing. Hopefully if we plan on doing the zone read most of the game, we will do it with Ashford. Peyton Thorne runs that read option / RPO, whichever you want to call it these days. I think it's funny to me. It feels like a lot of people, and I'm not saying I understand RPO, but utilize those two interchangeably, read option and RPO, and act like they're talking about the same thing, and they're not. They're similar, but they're not. I know that much. And it's always funny to me that someone just throws out RPO and makes them sound credible. I'm like, I don't think you even know exactly what it means. Run, pass, option, offense, whatever it's called. But yeah. Grant Loy's burner, which is so funny still that that's your handle. That Grant Loy is still being remembered. I'll say it. I miss Bo Nix. Yeah, look, we talked about it a lot here. Bo should still be here. There was a lot more at play at that than just simply he had a bad offensive line or he didn't like Brian Harsin. That man made the best decision he could have made. Try to argue with me on that. Man is living his life out there in Oregon with very little stress. He's in position to be recognized as a Heisman candidate and finalist. He is in position to compete for a Pac-12 championship. Is he in position to win a national title? For now. Will that last the whole season? Probably not. They're going to falter probably at some point like most teams do. But yeah, I think the majority of people, when they weren't looking for a scapegoat, because that's just what some Auburn fans do, love Bo. And that's why there was such a visceral reaction when he left. But when we all take a few years back in context, we're able to look and say, yeah, that man did the thing he needed to do for himself. And it wasn't a selfish thing at all. It was simply, I am running for my life. I've already been injured badly once. If I want any kind of career in this sport, I got to go find somewhere where I can be supported. And it wasn't here. Kevlar, just win 7 to 8 games this season, get a good bowl, and I will be satisfied with this year. So there's 2 ways to tackle your statement here. And I think, because I always try to look at both sides and think about how someone reacts to a statement. Because there are some that would be like, that's such a weak loser mentality to just accept that. It's not really that, but it's also an understanding of like, you should have high expectations, but you also have to operate within understanding. That's what you're saying here. 7 to 8 games should be the expectation. Getting into a decent bowl, and people have different opinions on what a decent bowl is. This year, for me, it would probably be the Music City Bowl, going somewhere besides Birmingham, because that's the last one we went to. Really, that the great thing for Hugh Freeze is the bar was set so low because we made a decision to fire Gus Malzahn, and then when there was no one ready to take the job, and then hire someone who wasn't a good fit. The bar has been set so low, it's crazy to think about. And I hear what you're saying here, Devin, but he's still an Auburn guy. And so this is the same way I feel about Sean Shivers. Sean Shivers, well, he actually didn't graduate, so it's a little bit different story. But there have been people that move on from Auburn, especially in the transfer portal era. And we're still going to talk about them, and we're still going to love on them and talk about the reality of that. So I get the frustration from some that we're still bringing up Bo, but he's part of our history, and he's part of our unfortunate part of our history. And his family is so well connected with us, whether you want him to be or not. And so we're still going to talk about him and, celebrate what he's doing, because I think that's part of being part of the Auburn family, and he's a graduate, so he will always be a part of the family. Now, here's the caveat for this. And I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but you got like Stanley McGlover. Remember him? And if he somehow watches this, or his friends or family watches, I'm sorry, but I haven't seen him atone for what he did. But basically tried to throw Auburn under the bus back when, I forget what the timeline was, but basically tried to, just slander Auburn for pay for play stuff. And look, everybody does it. I'm not excusing it, but there are ways that you can remove yourself from the good graces of the family. And it's not because you went to a different school. It's things like that. Sonny Galloway, former head, Brian Harsin is that, right? Like, he's not going to be ever be viewed in the good graces of Auburn. Within the context, like Brian brought up, he won us. He broke the LSU streak, but that's it. So one great victory doesn't fix the other problems that arose during his time here, whether or not they were all his fault. They still were under his watch. So that, I would say, that's the name. Sonny Galloway, former baseball coach who tried to slander Auburn and run its name through the ground. Because he was not happy with being let go. That'll get you brought out of the fan club. Kevlar says that Gus was burned out. I think wanted to be fired. Okay. Being the head coach at Auburn is stressful with the expectations. No, I disagree with you very vehemently there. Did not want to be fired, and he was not burned out. Sometimes you just don't have it for whatever reason. I think Frank, this is another overhashed topic, but we can talk about it. I mean, I can make a very strong case that we made the wrong decision by firing him. But yeah, a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. I guess this is in reference to your last comment. Interesting. Very, very interesting. So, all right, we got about 15 minutes left, a little less than 15. If there's a topic we haven't hit tonight, or maybe you got here a little late and we haven't hit on it yet, make sure you post it, because I do want to make sure we try to get a good spectrum of topics, even if they're within the same sphere of like football. But I know right now we're all kind of just sitting on that point of being off the bye week. It is a game week, but we're all just ready to have something new to talk about, something new to analyze. And LSU will give us plenty to analyze and talk about. My hope is when we get done with that game, no matter the response, what the team has, that the response will be, well, it's dependent upon how the team does. If they play like they did at Texas A&M, that would be a pattern, and that would be a cause for concern. But at the same thing, it is what it is. Devin says, I don't hold any will towards Bo. He graduated, of course. He'll always be an Auburn guy, but just the whole, I miss him, wish he were here, still getting a little old. Well, I mean, to be fair, on the other side, the whole dismissing of him is getting a little old for some people too, because I think there were a lot of people that really were fighting for that guy when all that stuff went down. And it's like, we can't dismiss each other on the thing. And I know that's not what you're doing, Devin. I'm just talking about it in generalities here. So to me, it's just, we're going to talk about what we want to talk about. And Bo will be brought up here a lot, I'm sure, over time, especially if he continues to do well. I mean, if we get to the end of this thing and he's in running for the Heisman, just be aware, you're going to see, at least on my personal account, me really fight for that dude to win the Heisman, even though I have no, say in that. Ooh, Brian with a hot take. Firing Gus was probably the worst coaching decision AU made in the past 3 decades. No, firing Gus was probably the worst coaching. I will actually and as much as I personally and my love for Gus agree with you, Brian, I'm going to disagree, but it's only because of who they hired after him. Hiring Brian Harsin was the worst decision they made. And because here's the great thing about this conversation, whether you were on the fence about get rid of Gus or not, or you were just down the middle. If they fire Gus and hire the right guy, that's all moot. Like that, they made the right call, but they didn't. And so the worst coaching decision was hiring Brian Harsin. I thought you might understand my take there. Oh, I got you. I see. I'm following a couple of conversations in here. Night game in Baton Rouge. Phew. Would have loved to have UJ at night. Glad we have Ole Miss at the nighttime slot. When I looked at the schedule and saw Ole Miss at the time I think it was never official, but I think there was a time where Ole Miss always seemed to fall either on Halloween, the week of, or after. Like, it was so close to Halloween. And this is, a week and a half removed from Halloween when that one will be played. But it was always around that time, and it was always played at night. And so Ole Miss just feels, when it's in Auburn, it feels like a night game. When it's at Ole Miss, it feels like a day game. I just think it's one of those matchups that is just gets a little bit more energetic. Think about last time we played Lane Kiffin. That was the other thing Brian Harsin did, folks. He beat the streak at LSU, and he beat a top 10 team in Ole Miss that was a very good Ole Miss team. So it finally came around. It took us a while it's sad it took us a while to get there, to remember the other thing that he did. I don't think it was a mistake to fire Gus, but the timing was horrible. That was a mistake. Well, then that's a mistake to fire Gus. Like, you see, we can't like dismiss. Both of those are interconnected. If it's a mistake the timing is wrong, it was a mistake to fire Gus. Now, if we were talking about if we had gone through maybe another season after COVID and the trajectory had continued to slide downward, then people like me don't really have a leg to stand on. But during a COVID year, it was the wrong decision. Let's see here. Grant Loy's burner says, I think James Franklin would have killed it here. I think Penn State is a dark horse national title contender. And this is what made me want to. Penn State thinks they're a dark horse every year, and every year they blow it. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. However, James Franklin is a good coach. Think about what he inherited in both places. He was at Vanderbilt, and I know he had probably coaching, I would assume, had some other head coaching experience somewhere else, but took over Vanderbilt and made them relevant to a conversation. Were they relevant to the ultimate conversation of the SEC ever? Not really. There was maybe a whiff of that every once in a while, but they weren't a pushover. Like, you actually were a little bit worried to see Vanderbilt at their place, just because you're like, I'm used to walking in here and feeling like we're going to walk on air. And then he walks into the mess that was Penn State, given their scandal and everything. Yeah, yes, it's Penn State. It's like inheriting a broken down Texas A&M. They've got the support to get it back to where it needs to be, even if you hire an incompetent head coach. I have a lot of respect for James Franklin, but it's hard to argue that they really haven't taken that next step with him. You know, it's interesting dynamic there, because I like the coach, but I see what Devin was saying. They always think they're back. Let's see here. You think this year is different? They're better than Ohio State. Not sure about Michigan. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the Big Ten yet. So I don't watch a lot of their games outside of implications to Auburn or anything like that. There's not many right now. Didn't we beat Auburn when he was at Vandy? Is that what you're asking? Didn't he beat Auburn when he was at Vandy? I think that sounds right, which is painful. So, yeah. I think he's a good coach. I just don't know that Penn State's going to get where they would like to be for now with him at the helm. I think they've got too many other monsters in front of them, Michigan, Ohio State. You know what's sad is that Wisconsin, and I don't know how Brian will feel about this being in Minnesota. Wisconsin kind of fallen off of late has been kind of sad. I like having them in the mix, and they're not, as of late, in the mix all that much. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So we got 5 minutes left. We're not done here, so please do make sure you drop in a comment or a question. I will go ahead and close the phone lines just because I do need to get out of here at a decent time tonight. But thank you so much to Kevin and Brian who called in. Always a pleasure to see some smiling faces and voices. And I hope you all will be able to do the same when you can, when we have another Wednesday night show. What's up next for E2C Network before we take some final comments and questions? Tomorrow night, 8 Eastern time, the Auburn versus LSU preview and prediction show or live stream, where we are going to walk through every aspect that we can think of in this game. How many passing yards, how many rushing yards, how many interceptions, how many punts are there going to be, to try to make a better informed prediction about this game. We've actually had some pretty good predictions come out of this process, not necessarily by me, but by people walking through it with us. So join us if you can. Would love to hear from some LSU fans. We'll open up the phone lines for them if they'd like to join us, but we shall see what happens there. Obviously, you don't want to miss the post-game show. Since it's on the road, I will be set up in studio ready to go right as the game ends on what will be a rowdy night in Baton Rouge. And please don't miss the Auburn Experience show, where we talk about sports, culture, and family. Austin and myself will be back in the saddle together, barring Austin being sick again. We got to get that man well. Episode 54 live recording Sunday at 9 Eastern time. So don't miss it. Check out those links in the description here on YouTube for ways to help keep us going here at E2C Network. We are primarily listener, viewer, follower, family member funded. And it is a great thing that you can do if you're able to join here on YouTube for $1 a month, join the Patreon for $1 a month. Both of those are the Conquer Club. Great ways that you can get some perks for yourself, but also help support what we're doing here. That's all the things that I can think of for now. So let's see what you guys are saying. Luke Fickle will have Wisconsin back soon, I believe. How long has he been here? Been there now? How long has that been? Is it only 1 year? Anyway, if I think it's 1 year, but he hasn't been. Yeah, 1 year. I would like to think he would. Wisconsin is one of those programs that seems to always bounce back into relevancy, but never get. It's a lot like Penn State, right? Maybe a step below Penn State. They're always part of the conversation, it seems like, at some point, but very rarely do they take the next step in the modern era. I have family from Wisconsin. I've said that several times here that I find are, I have an allegiance to them, obviously, because they're family. But so I kind of somewhat root for Wisconsin. I don't have as much vested interest in them, though. I lose no sleep over Wisconsin struggling. I figured not, Brian. I figured not. First year for Luke Fickell. Well, it always could be worse, right, Auburn fans? What's Wisconsin's record right now? Let's look real quick. I'm just curious. This has turned into the Wisconsin show. Let's see. They are overall 4-1. Oh, so they're doing all right. Now it's probably going to get tougher the further they get into conference play. And here's the thing: the Big Ten West, I'm sorry, compared to the East or whatever it's called, as leaders, legends, I think they took those titles away. That's just pitiful. It's just pitiful. Lost to Washington State. I think that's it. And they're not a bad team. So anyway, that is how we're going to end it on a Wisconsin tear on this show on an Auburn-centric live stream. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Remember, tomorrow night, 8 Eastern, join us. Love to have you here chatting along with us, part of the show. We'd also love to have you with us on our post-game show right after the LSU matchup and then on Sunday evening. And, of course, we'll be back here in a week for the Auburn Family live stream once again. Always a great time discussing with you all, hashing it out, even when we see things from different perspectives. It's always a fuller experience when we hear everybody's thoughts and opinions on these different things. So thank you so much for being here, being part of our little family within the Auburn family. And until I talk to you again, War Eagle.